He stopped at a gas station just outside of Ridgeville, a place so empty even the streetlights looked tired. As Jake filled up his tank, he noticed movement behind the dumpsters. A figure, small and twitchy, watching him. Jake pretended not to notice. He'd been around long enough to recognize trouble before it made a sound. The air smelled like gasoline and wet asphalt, and the hum of the neon sign above the old convenience store was the only thing alive besides him. He wiped his hands on a rag, his boots crunching against the gravel, and kept his eyes on the mirror of his Harley. That's when he saw it. Just a flicker of motion, then the faint glint of metal in the boy's shaking hand. The kid couldn't have been more than 15. Hood pulled tight, sneakers torn to ribbons, eyes darting between fear and desperation. He stepped out from the shadows, voice cracking like he hadn't used it in days. "Give me your wallet," he said, trying to sound dangerous but coming off scared. Jake didn't move. The kid's hand was buried deep in his pocket, probably around a cheap knife. His knees trembled. His lips were dry. Jake had seen junkies, thieves, gang kids, but this one looked like something else. He looked hungry, and cold, and lost. Jake took a slow step forward, his tone calm, like talking to a stray dog that might bite. "Easy there, son. You sure that's how you want to do this?" The boy's voice shook. "Don't come closer, old man. Just give it. I don't want to hurt you." That made Jake almost laugh. He'd been through wars, bar fights, and road ambushes. This boy wasn't a threat. He was a cry for help with a weapon in his hand. He dropped his wallet on the ground between them. "There, take it." The boy blinked, surprised by how easy it was. He bent down, snatched the wallet, and backed up a step. But Jake didn't take his eyes off him. "You running from someone?" he asked. The question hit like a jab. The boy froze, swallowing hard. "What?" Jake nodded toward the bruises along the boy's jaw, the dry blood under his nose. "You look like you've been in a fight you didn't start." The boy opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, a black SUV came screeching around the corner, its headlights slicing through the darkness. Jake turned toward the sound just as two men jumped out. Big, heavy-built, the kind of men who think cruelty makes them strong. One pointed at the boy. "There he is, little thief." The boy's face went pale. He stumbled backward, his voice breaking. "Please, don't let them take me." Jake sighed quietly. He knew this type too well. Men who preyed on weakness, who wore power like a costume. He stepped between the kid and the SUV, his voice low but firm. "Everything okay here?" The taller man sneered. "Mind your business, old man. That punk stole from us." Jake's expression didn't change. He doesn't look like he's got much to steal. The man spat on the ground. He took cash from his uncle's shop. "We're here to teach him a lesson." The boy whispered, "They'll kill me." That was all Jake needed to hear. The taller man took a step closer, puffing out his chest. "Move, Grandpa. This doesn't concern you." Jake took a slow breath. "Kid's under my watch now. You got a problem with that? You can take it up with me." The second man pulled a metal baton from his belt. "You got no idea who we are." Jake tilted his head. "Then I guess it's time you learned who I am." The fight was short and ugly. The first man lunged. Jake ducked, grabbed his jacket, and slammed him against the gas pump. The second swung the baton, but Jake caught his wrist midair and twisted hard until he heard bone pop. The men stumbled back, cursing, one holding his shoulder, the other his jaw. Jake's voice stayed calm. "You're done here. Get in your truck." They spat a few threats, but one look at Jake's cold stare made them think better of it. The SUV roared off, leaving behind only the echo of tires against the wet road. Jake turned to the boy, who was trembling, his face streaked with grime and tears. "You okay?" The kid nodded weakly, but his lips quivered. "You shouldn't have done that. They'll come back." Jake shrugged. "Then we'll be ready for them." He walked into the gas station diner next door and motioned for the boy to follow. Inside, the lights buzzed and the smell of burnt coffee filled the air. Jake ordered 2 coffees and a plate of fries. The boy sat stiffly, like he was waiting for a cop to burst in and cuff him. After a few minutes, Jake spoke. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated. "Tyler." "Got a last name?" Jake asked. "Crane." Jake froze, the name hitting him like a memory pulled from a grave. Crane. He'd known a man with that name once, Walter Crane. A good man, a veteran, one of the few who rode with Jake's club back in the day before cancer took him. Jake's voice softened. "You from Hillcrest?" The boy frowned, suspicious. "Yeah, you knew my dad." Jake leaned back. "Knew him real well. Rode with him once. Hell of a man." Tyler's eyes dropped to the table. "He died when I was little." Jake nodded. "I know. He was a good brother." The boy's lip trembled. "You really rode with him?" Jake smiled faintly. "Road Reapers. That ring a bell." Tyler shook his head. Jake continued. "Your old man wore that patch with pride. Fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves." Tyler swallowed hard. "Then why'd I end up here?" Jake didn't answer right away. He just pushed the plate of fries toward the boy. "Eat. We'll figure that out later." When they finished, Jake stepped outside and made a call. The sound of engines echoed over the line. Within the hour, 3 bikes appeared in the distance, their headlights cutting through the mist like ghosts. The Road Reapers had arrived. Rico, their sergeant-at-arms, was first through the door, a mountain of a man with hands like stone and a heart that beat for loyalty. Jake simply said, "Walter Crane's kid." Rico didn't ask for proof. He just nodded, took off his jacket, and draped it over Tyler's shoulders. "Your family now, kid. That means no one touches you." For the next few weeks, Tyler stayed at the Reapers' compound, a cluster of metal garages and trailers tucked behind an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. He swept floors, cleaned bikes, fetched tools, and listened more than he talked. Jake made sure he learned discipline. Rico made sure he learned respect. And slowly, the kid who had shown up trembling and broken began to change. He smiled more, ate more, even laughed once in a while. He was still haunted by whatever ghosts chased him, but for the first time in years, he didn't have to run. The Reapers weren't saints, but they had their code. No women, no kids, no civilians. They lived by it like scripture. And protecting Walter Crane's boy wasn't just charity, it was duty. Jake saw his younger self in the kid, lost, angry, looking for a place to belong. So he gave him one. One night, Tyler confessed everything. His uncle had turned their home into a chop shop for stolen bikes. He'd forced Tyler to run errands, steal gas, even break into garages. When Tyler tried to keep a little cash to buy a bus ticket out, his uncle's men beat him and took everything. "I was gonna run to the city," Tyler said, staring at the floor. "Didn't care where, just wanted to get away." Jake listened without interrupting. When the boy finished, Jake said, "You ran into me instead. Guess fate had other plans." But fate wasn't done yet. A few weeks later, the same black SUV showed up again. The men had been asking around town, flashing money, trying to find the boy. When word reached Jake, he didn't hesitate. "Saddle up," he told his brothers. "We've got company." That night, the Reapers rolled into Ridgeville like thunder. 5 bikes lined up outside a dive bar at the edge of town, their chrome gleaming under the flickering sign. Inside, the men who'd hurt Tyler were drinking and laughing. The moment they saw Jake and the Reapers walk in, the laughter stopped. Jake stepped forward, voice low. "You boys have a hard time learning lessons, huh?" One of the men grinned. "You got no idea who you're messing with." Jake's tone didn't change. "You laid hands on a kid, my brother's kid. You don't walk away from that." The bar fell silent. The air thickened with the smell of whiskey and tension. The fight that followed wasn't flashy. It was controlled, precise, and brutal. Rico took down 2 of them before Jake even swung. The rest tried to run, but found the Reapers waiting at the door. When it was over, the floor was slick with spilled beer, and the men were groaning in the corner. Jake stood over them, breathing steady. "You come near that kid again," he said, "and I'll forget I believe in second chances." By dawn, the SUV was gone, the men vanished, and the Reapers rode back home in silence. Tyler was waiting at the garage when they returned, his eyes full of questions. Jake just patted his shoulder. "It's done." The boy didn't ask what that meant. He didn't need to. From that day on, Tyler worked harder than anyone. He learned to rebuild carburetors, tune engines, weld frames. Jake taught him to ride, slow at first, then faster, until the wind no longer scared him. Rico taught him how to fight, how to stand tall, how to protect what mattered. The club became his family. Every man there, a brother he never had. Every rumble of engines, a reminder that he belonged. Months passed. Tyler saved up enough to rebuild a broken-down Harley they found in the junkyard. When he finally kicked it to life, Jake smiled like a proud father. "She's yours now," he said. "Your first real ride." Tyler's eyes welled up. "I don't deserve this." Jake shook his head. "You earned it. You just had to stop running." As the years rolled by, the boy who once tried to rob a biker grew into a man who carried the Reaper's patch on his back with pride. He became known in Ridgeville not as a thief, but as a mechanic who fixed bikes for free when veterans couldn't pay. He never forgot where he came from, or who had saved him. One night, sitting by the fire at the clubhouse, Tyler asked Jake, "Why'd you help me that night? You didn't even know me." Jake stared into the flames for a long time before answering. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it, and I made a promise I'd do the same when it was my turn." Tyler nodded quietly, the firelight flickering across his face. "Guess I owe my life to that promise." Jake smiled faintly. "We all owe our lives to someone's mercy, kid. Just make sure you pass it on." From then on, whenever people in Ridgeville heard the distant roar of bikes echoing down the highway, they didn't think of outlaws. They thought of protectors. Men who carried scars but still believed in justice. Men who'd been judged by their leather and tattoos, but whose hearts beat for something real. And sometimes, late at night, when the roads were empty and the wind carried the sound of Harley engines through the hills, folks would swear they saw a young rider leading the pack with an older man beside him. The boy who once tried to rob a bike and now rode as one, bound not by blood but by brotherhood. Because in the end, it wasn't about the road or the ride. It was about redemption. About second chances and the men who still believed in them. If you believe bikers can be heroes too, Share this story.